Welcome to Bilingual Book Buddies. Bilingual Book Buddies is a podcast and webcast dedicated to promoting bilingual books for children and sharing insights from authors, illustrators, editors, agents, and anyone involved in bringing these stories to life. I'm Claudia Sloan. I'm one of three co-hosts of Bilingual Book Buddies. I'm also an artist and illustrator of bilingual children's books. I write stories about wellness, Latinx culture, life adventures, my own life adventures, modern fairy tales, STEAM, and sports. In fact, my latest picture book is a sports book with my favorite basketball teams, the Phoenix Suns and the Phoenix Mercury. And I have the pleasure to welcome one of my co-hosts. The other one is absent today, but this is Silvia Lopez, who's going to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. I am Silvia Lopez, and I am a Cuban American author living in Miami, Florida. I was a school librarian, media specialist for many years before turning my love of reading into writing for children. I have about 20 books published, mostly bilingual or dual language. These include picture books, nonfiction, folktale retellings, easy readers, and biographies. 4 more of my books are scheduled to be released in 2026 and 2027. Okay.
And we are also welcoming to our podcast Maritere Bellas. Hi, Maritere.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great. Maritere, tell us a little bit about yourself, just for the audience, would you?
Of course. So I'm Maritere Bellas. I am the author of now 3 bilingual children's books, and I also wrote 2 parenting books. I started writing for parents. I'm been an advocate for language and culture for over the last almost 3 decades, and I am a very my mission is always to encourage parents to preserve language and the culture, to expose children to our culture, and what better way than through language. And I write right now the books that my 50% Greek, 50% Puerto Rican, and 100% American children did not have when they were growing up. Books that highlight language and culture, especially my Puerto Rican culture, but with messages that I hope children from all cultures can engage, and their curiosity will be sparked, and they will love to learn more about the Puerto Rican culture.
Fabulous. Thank you so much and welcome. And there's another fact about Maritere that everybody should know. She is a co-host of a podcast for bilingual families, Mama's 411 podcast, that she has been, which you were the founder and creator of that, right? About 5 years ago.
Yes, I came up with the idea, and we needed something in Spanish at the time. There's a lot more today, which is wonderful. But our podcast interviews parents, Latino parents all over the world, and it's listened to in 27 countries. And we tell those stories, those bilingual, bicultural, multicultural stories to the audience that wants to know how a Latino parent is, living in Israel, and how they preserve the culture, the Latino culture over there, things like that. So, and my co-host is Erika Minoshnik, and Erika is from Argentina, and she lives in New York. So, we've had an amazing time together, meeting all these amazing moms and dads, because we've had fathers too that have shared their journey, their bilingual, bicultural journey.
Wow, fantastic. Well, and while continuing with your introduction, I just want to be sure our audience knows that Maritere also is the author of 2 bilingual parenting books for adults. So this is in addition to her children's writing, which we're going to be talking about today, but look up those bilingual parenting books. And she is not the beauty. She has a brand new children's book coming up actually this month. Tío Ricky doesn't speak English, or Tío Ricky no habla inglés. It's her book, and we're going to talk about it during this podcast in a little bit. So without further ado, welcome, Maritere. We're super excited to be here. Bienvenida. Silvia, you got the first question.
I do. And you spoke about journeys, Maritere. We heard you say the word journey, and that's part of my question. Can you please tell us about you and your life's journey to get to where you are today? And what are you most proud of?
Oh, that's a long story. No, I'll make it shorter. So I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. I grew up speaking Spanish at home, and at school, I went to a parochial school where at the time there were nuns that were coming from the United States, and they didn't speak any Spanish. So we, the children, spoke English to them. So that's kind of how we learn English. But by the time we were in like fourth, fifth grade, the subjects were more in English as well. So, fast forward to 12th grade, I was completely bilingual, beliterate. I could write, read, and communicate in both languages. I developed a love of languages, so I wanted to pursue that career in college. And I had the opportunity to study in Europe for 2 years. I went to a small American school that was in Switzerland, or it still is there, and met people from all over the world, most that spoke three or four, five languages without, but very easy and no confusion, especially children. I was a babysitter for my French teacher, and he had three children, and the kids would speak all these languages, and it was fascinating to me. And so I think at 18 years old, I learned what an amazing experience was to be exposed to all those languages and the cultures. Because at the same time that they were speaking these languages, these children were being exposed to different cultures. So that's, I think, where my love of languages and cultures, got cemented. And I remember thinking, wow, one day when I have children, I want them to be at least bilingual and multicultural. Well, fast forward a few years, I came to California to get my master's degree in communications after I had my bachelor's degree in languages. I did learn French, so I speak three languages. I don't get to speak French that much anymore, but um, I came here to get my master's degree in communications. I have a background in journalism and public relations, and I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but with that, but I met this young man that is Greek American, and we went back to Puerto Rico 2.5 years later, got married, and decided to make our lives in California, in the south part of California, the Southern California area. And we decided pretty early on. I had expressed my interest to him about languages and cultures, and I was like, I really want our children to be exposed to your culture and my culture and the American culture. And he's like, all for it. So it was a time where, you might remember, Sylvia, no one was talking about bilingualism, or if you spoke something other than English, they would look at you with a funny face, or, like, why are you doing that? Like, but I was bound and determined. And I had the opportunity to do a project for a couple of years for La Opinion newspaper in LA. And it was around the time that I was having my kids, and I was trying to balance the languages and the cultures, trying to decide. There was no dual language schools near me. The distances in California are, very big.
Huge.
So my husband's like, you're going to drive over there to drop off the kids, and by the time you come back, you're going to have to drive back, get back in the road. So it was just not convenient. And but I really wanted to do something. And, I came up with, okay, I speak to them in Spanish and you speak to them in English. Well, fast forward, now that's called OPOL, which is one parent, one language. At the time, there was nothing like that. So I called my friend at La Opinion and I said, unless you go to the pediatrician's office, you don't see anything in Spanish for these immigrant parents that are coming here. And also there's nothing about how to balance and preserve and, how do we talk to them about keeping the Spanish? Because a lot of times they feel like if they, their kids have to learn English or they're not going to learn English, and there's this worry and or that they're going to be confused. And so there were all these things that I was questioning myself. And my husband said to me, you have a master's degree, you're educated. Think of the parent that doesn't have the education that you do. I think you need to do something with this. So that's when I started writing a column for La Opinion. And it was about that, about, balancing, trying to encourage the parents not to stop speaking in Spanish and to expose them to the culture. I would be the Google of the time because we had no Google. So I would go to the library and find information. The journalist in me always showed up. And I would talk to the experts, the educators, and the speech language pathologies, and would get information that I could include in the column. So to give the parents some knowledge and some education. And from there, I went to a writers' conference in New York City. I ended up with Simon and Schuster asking me to write the Raising Bilingual Children book because it was 2013, and a few months before, if not a year before that, in 2020, the Aspen Institute and all these wonderful institutions were revealing their studies, sharing their stories about the bilingual, multilingual brain and the
Right.
benefits and advantages of raising a bilingual child. So all of a sudden, the conversation was happening, and I wrote that book for them. And that opened a lot of doors because all of, then I was talking to parent groups, and I was talking to, I was being invited to book festivals and to share my stories and, what the book was about and my experience. And, but it was an ebook in Spanish and English, and everybody wanted to still walk away with the book. So I went
Yes.
back to a manuscript that I had written about culture that at the time um, it was called Ni de aquí ni de allá, my book, neither from here nor from there. And so I updated it, I added whatever I, got it all ready, and I decided to self-publish it because Simon and Schuster wasn't ready, and I understood they weren't ready to publish a second book right away. And I changed the name thanks to my son because right before it goes into print, I'm like, I just feel like we need like a more catchy name, like, so people get it. We need like an analogy of something. And he's like, okay, how about food? And I'm like, okay, keep talking. And he's like, well, arroz con pollo is very popular in all Latin American countries, and apple pie is very American. And you're trying to show that they can coexist. So I'm like, yes, I love it. So we called it arroz con pollo and apple pie, raising bicultural children. And then I had a book. Whenever I went to speak in language conferences like CABE, ATDLE, Reforma, I was being asked to do workshops with parents, and at least they had a book to walk away from. And from all those conversations with parents, the question always was, the most important thing was, what do I do when my child starts school and they come home and they don't want to speak Spanish? So that's where the idea for I Have a Secret, Tengo un Secreto, the children's book, came up. And it was a story about a little boy from Puerto Rico living in California, but the parents are from Puerto Rico, and he starts school. llega a la casa and he doesn't want, Spanish, no, mommy, and Spanish, no, papi, and no Spanish. And he, storms in the bedroom and, he has this little thing going. Uh, and then one day, the teacher says to him, I wish I was like you. I wish I was fluent in two languages and I could communicate in two languages. And you know what it is for a child. Sometimes it's a third person that needs to say the same thing that mom
Yes.
and dad have been saying, uh,
Yes.
right? Uh,
Yes.
so, and I have this just this love and this appreciation for teachers. I think they are one, if not the most important person in a child's life. And I wanted to make her, or, in this case, it's a her, be the heroine of the story. So that's that one story. And then fast forward, I had met the owners of Little Libros in when they started their business. Publishing board books. They are both from California, Latinas from California, and we kind of knew that eventually we would do a project together. And so that's where the Tío Ricky doesn't speak English, Tío Ricky no habla español came. I signed that contract about 3 years ago, and then COVID hit, and everything got a little bit pushed back. So, but I feel like this is the right time for this book to be out, and I'm very spiritual, and I believe in there's a time for everything, and it's God's time and not my time. My sister always reminds me about that, my Puerto Rican sister. So anyway, here we are with the book coming out uh, October 14th, and I'm so excited that this is happening. And yeah, I look forward to see what happens, if people like it or not like it, or whatever. Hopefully they will.
They will like it. I'm sure they
I'm
will like
sure.
it. How exciting. Thank you for sharing the journey. And I mean, one thing we notice with every guest, every single journey is so different, even though, you would think, oh, well, this is all children's books. This is such a, it can be through so many different directions. So amazing. Thank you. And talking about journey, so let's dig a little bit on your very first bilingual children's book, Luisito's Island. I mean, just very briefly, what was your experience getting that very first one published? Is like, how did it happen?
Well, so when the Arroz con Pollo and Apple Pie book was out, I was going to book festivals with the book. And I met at the time, the organization was, I think it's still called reconmigo.org. And they, at the time, were, it was a subscription for free that parents could do online, and they would provide bilingual books or Spanish books to the families directly via their computer. And maybe twice a year, they would do a little pamphlet. So they asked me if I would write a story for them. And I said, well, I've never written a children's book. I'm not sure what I would write about. And so I thought about it for a while. They had a large subscription of parents, and I figure, well, if you know, my name will get out there, I think it would benefit us both. And let's see what happens. So I sat down. This is after Huracán Maria. And I wrote a story about a little boy that has to leave the island. They had a request. So every author that wrote a book, the organization had three different animal characters. So I had to use those characters within the book. I could have the main character be a boy or a girl, but their animals had to be in the story. So I just created this make-believe story about a little boy that comes and meets new friends and shares with them all the landmarks of the island that he misses. And by doing that, he was teaching the kids about Puerto Rico. And so it's a sweet story, and at the end, it's like he dreams that he's back in the island. But it was a one time opportunity. It wasn't a book that I could sell. So at some point I would love to rewrite it and, with a different story idea or, a different name or something. Because um, it's what I love about it now is that I had the copies and I could give them away. When people came and the parents wanted to buy my adult book, my parenting book, I could give them the copy of the Luisitos Island book for their kids. So that was really special. I still do that. I still have some copies. They since right after COVID, they changed their program, and I think it's more of a teacher's program now. It's not necessarily for families. So I don't know that they're producing books anymore. But it kind of like the opportunity that helped me realize that yes, maybe I could do this. And then after I wrote my second book, after that, I think I was hooked. I was like, okay, this is what I want to be doing with my life. So, you know,
That's
then I had to learn.
awesome.
Then I had to learn how to do it because, like I
Here
mentioned to
you
you,
are.
behind the scenes, I'm like, I wasn't sure what I was doing.
But
Well,
that's
but
fabulous. That's why I like that question because it's kind of like what got you started in the children's area. Sorry, Sylvia, go on, please.
no, no, no. Go ahead, Claudia. That was good. That was fine.
That was it.
Okay, so we're ready for the next question. The technical question here. Do you usually write your books in English first and then translate to Spanish? I guess this would be the bilingual children's books, or the other way around, or simultaneously. What's your process for writing bilingual manuscripts?
So I wrote I think it's different. It's been different the three times. Maybe two times the same and the first thing very. When I wrote Luisito's Island, I wrote it in Spanish first, and then I wrote the English version of it. But I have to be honest and tell you that I've been surrounded by English for so long. I mean, I've been in California 40 years that English comes to me faster than Spanish. Consequently, right around COVID, I decided, English is around me the whole, and my husband doesn't speak Spanish either. So I've been watching series in Spanish for the last 4 years. Everything I watch on Netflix, anywhere, even if it's dubbed, and I laugh at some of the translations, but I just feel like I need to hear Spanish in my ear more because my whole life is surrounded by English. So, and then you know this, Sylvia, and you, Claudia, when we submit manuscripts to querying to agents and stuff, they have to be in English because
They have to be in
I
English.
mean, at least if there's an agent out there that would like to get stuff in Spanish, I love to know because I just assume that you have to submit everything in English. So
Yes.
I I have a secret, tengo un secreto. I wrote it in English first, and then I did the Spanish translation as well. And then with same thing with Tio Ricky, I wrote it in English first. And once that was because that was kind of like I felt like I wanted them to approve the English completely first before
Right.
I kind of asked them, can I take a stab? Because I know they have their, they work like a traditional publisher. So, all these indie publishers, they have their own little editorial staff that takes care of, and they have their translators and stuff.
Yes.
But I wanted to take a stab at it. So I asked if I could. And yeah, and I submitted the Spanish version. There were a few, changes here and there. Uh, there's some, there's about three things in the book that are very like cultural styles that I use. A couple of words that are more Puerto Rican. I feel like we all have to embrace these language variations and this cultural styles because this teaches the children so much about that particular culture and how amazing that our children can learn to say aguacate because that's what we say in Puerto Rico and many other places, but they also can learn to say palta, like they say, it's the word for Peru and Argentina and other places. And all those are words that are added to their vocabulary. So I'm
Absolutely.
all for language variations. I mean, I do love Spanish, and but I just don't consider myself a purist because I think that's too extreme.
Well, but
Uh,
that's what makes Spanish beautiful, in my opinion. The variations you have, all these Latin countries and Caribbean countries, uh, and of course it's Spain, the motherland. Speaking their own variations of it, and but it's still we can all understand each other. It's still the same language overall, but with all these exciting variations and meanings. I mean, I always have fun. Finding out like, oh, and how do you say it over there? Because I have friends from all over, and how do you say it in
yes.
Peru? How do you say this in Panama? And it's hilarious sometimes that one single word has one meaning for me, and then somebody has a completely different meaning, or so no, it's great that you're putting that in your books. Fabulous.
And it
Yes,
expands, I think it expands the world of the child.
of
It,
course.
it shows them not only that language can be different in different places, different words, different expressions, and that makes people different, but at the same time, we're sharing a story. So we're all the same in that way. So yeah, absolutely. That's a very good point. Okay, Claudia, let you do the next one.
Yes, be happy to. So, we talked about your podcast a little bit ago. So, you're a fellow podcast host. How did that come to be, and how does that influence or support your published work?
Well, it is a resource for parents that are raising or have chosen to live a multilingual, multicultural lifestyle. And at the time that I came up with this idea, there was not a lot of podcasts out there that were in Spanish that were talking to that parent. And I can't tell you how many, even today, at fast forward, this is our 13th season, we get messages from moms and dads that are saying, "Oh my God, I came across your podcast y, qué bueno que está en español y, me encantan las historias que estoy escuchando de todas las personas, las experiencias," because, we all learn from each other. So, and that's where, if you think about it, there's all these Facebook groups of, for bilingual parenting or for, even podcasters en español. I mean, we all join those communities to learn from each other. So here is our podcast, and that's what we aimed, from day one. We wanted parents to have access to the resources, and then we not only talk to parents that are in the midst or in their journey of raising bilingual, multilingual, multicultural kids, but we also find the resources that are created by some of these parents are parents themselves that created resources that parents can use to help them and support their journey. So we also have those episodes out there. And so yeah, it's, now we're planning our 14th season, and, it's a lot of work, as you all know. But I would like to interview you all at some point. So we'll talk about that it's pretty soon via
Okay,
email.
sounds good.
Okay.
But yeah, because I think that, it's fun to, like, we've done it in the past with a couple of other podcasters, to learn from each other, and, like, okay, so what works for you and what doesn't work for you, or this didn't work for me. And also, a lot of us are moms and dads that went through, or, now my kids are adults now, but, what was my experience versus what was your experience.
Right.
I'm in California, Sylvia, you're in, the Miami area. I mean, we all have kind of similar but different experiences.
Yes.
You were exposed, maybe your kids were exposed to more Spanish than my kids were in the area where I live. I mean, I live in a really white neighborhood where I think I was a brown, the only brown face in there, decades ago when I first moved here. And I tell the story in my Raising Bilingual Children book. Um, but my kids ended up in a parochial school as well. And I really was bound and determined to get Spanish as part of their curriculum, even if it started as an extracurricular activity. So it took me 8 years to convince them. But I'm here to tell you that the teacher that I brought still runs their program. Now they have a second teacher, and it's almost 18 years ago.
Wow.
So
That
yeah, I think, and I always tell
it
parents, if
shows that
you
it's needed.
well, and if you don't, if as parents, if we don't see something that you think like, because yes, I wanted to benefit my kids, but I wanted the kids in the neighborhood to benefit, every
Right.
kid to benefit. So, I always tell parents, sometimes you have to roll up your sleeves and come up with a plan and, present it and do it if you really are so passionate about it. Um, so that's my lesson of the day.
Fabulous.
That's wonderful. Okay, so let's see. Um, is it me, Claudia? It's me. Um, what special memories or life events have had the most influence in your writing?
What memories? I think that when I wrote my I Have a Secret, Tengo un Secreto book, um, I named that character after my late brother. I grew up with two brothers and a sister. There were four of us. And in Puerto Rico, I'm very blessed and very privileged to say that I had a beautiful childhood. Wasn't perfect, nothing is perfect, but we all had a lot of fun. We all had, we were all like 2 years apart from each other. My sister and I had our arguments and we threw shoes at each other at times and all that stuff. But for the most part, we were very, very close. And I look back in my childhood memories in Puerto Rico, and I want to include that in my books. So that particular book, my brother he never left the island, and he was so pro Spanish. And so I drew on that memory, and I also wanted to do a series of books honoring his memory because he was such a fun child to grow up with, very noble and had a dry sense of humor, and was always reminding me to never stop speaking Spanish to my kids. So that's the memory that I take, and wherever, even Tio Ricky's book, it's also about the reality of many bilingual Latino families
Yes,
where the child becomes the voice of the
yes,
loved ones because they don't speak English. So
right.
I remember being back in Puerto Rico, and my kids had to translate for one of the family members that perhaps didn't speak English, and they would say, "Oh, this is what my dad is saying in English." Those memories are there.
I could
Well, I hear
totally
you
relate.
because, yes, I was my parents' translator as well. So I hear you.
Yeah, I could totally relate to your character in there in your book. Not to spill the beans a lot, but there's a moment in there that I just totally love when he gets so frustrated. And I was like, oh yes, I can relate to that. And I'm sure
Yeah.
many children uh who serve that role will be able to relate to that
Oh,
too. But
absolutely.
I have the next question. So, this is changing a little bit, but it's still, in the topic. Is what significant challenges have you faced to get your bilingual books published, and how have you overcome them?
Well, I I I remember seeing that question and trying to figure out how do I answer that question. Um, with the Luisito's Island, La Isla de Luisito, I was asked to write that book, and then I have a secret and tengo un secreto book. I knew that I wanted to write it in, bilingual. It took me a couple years to find out someone. I didn't have an agent at the time. And it was through the readconmigo.org organization that published Luisito's Island that this publisher found me and said, I would love uh, to print, to print your book, to publish your book. So, and then with Little Libros, they already published bilingual books. So it wasn't like I had to think about it.
Right.
They were automatically already like that's the way it has happened. Whether my next book is going to be in English and Spanish or bilingual, I don't know. I just got my agent. She'll have to deal with that. So I'm open to suggestions. I do have manuscripts in Spanish only, and I have manuscripts in English only with sprinkle words in Spanish. And also the idea that those books that would be published in English would also have a Spanish version to them.
That's very important.
I hope I answered your questions.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. That was correct. Absolutely what you hit it. I have this question for you, speaking of the book that we were talking about Tio Ricky doesn't speak English. Can you share with us this book's journey to publication? How did it come from being an idea to actually seeing it printed?
Yeah, it was a long process because of COVID. I think I mentioned that
Oh,
earlier,
yes.
and things got pushed back, etc. But so like I mentioned to you, I had developed a relationship with Patty Rodriguez and Ariana Stein, the publishers of Little Libros. And we ran into each other at book events and etc. over the years. I think did a couple of parent presentations together. And so when I was ready with the idea when after that I have a Secret Tengo un Secreto book, I had another story that I wanted to send to them to see, because by this point they were accepting submissions from outside authors. In the past, they were publishing their books with their in-house editorial team. So I sent this story, but I decided to include about, I don't know, I think there were like 10 other ideas. And one of the ideas was this one about a little boy or girl having to translate to their loved one. And Patty called me on the phone and said, I got your manuscript, I got your list. There's one story in there that like punched me in the heart because it's exactly my story. And I'm like, which one? And she said, the translating. And she says, you're going to get a contract. And I'm excited. I knew this day would come. And so that's how it happened. And I'm super grateful that she gave me the opportunity to write this story.
Thank you. That's fabulous to hear. Are we off, Claudia?
Oh,
With
her microphone is off.
your microphone?
Oh,
Yeah.
there you
Oh,
go.
sorry about that. I was just saying that thank you for sharing that. And I was sharing a little bit of your book so people could see.
I
I don't know
saw
if
it.
we was able to see, but well, we're really excited about you and this book coming up. Now, this question obviously is about this book as well. So, what do you hope children will take away when they read Tío Ricky doesn't speak English? Tío Ricky no habla inglés.
Yes.
And why?
I hope that when children read it, they realize that translating is not a chore. It is an act of kindness and love for, the person in front of them, and or anyone. I mean, we could be going down the street and could hear an older person perhaps trying to communicate with someone else, and the little boy and girl would, come in the conversation and say, "Oh, I can help you." I mean, that is an act of kindness. And I also want them to realize that it is a superpower to be able to communicate in two or more languages. And I want them to feel proud and to be empowered to get in that conversation if they ever see someone that needs help because they can't understand the other person or what the other person is asking them.
I love that.
I love that it's a superpower. That's another very good quote that I'm going to write down. I
Yeah,
love it.
the a lot of the things that we do with bilingual kids is about that, about trying to promote bilingualism as a positive thing, as a
Exactly.
good thing, because it is a personal strength, a talent, and so superpower is this is a great way
It's
to
a
say it to a
perfect,
kid.
perfect,
Uh,
perfect word.
Well, and it's really a gift that we're giving our children. And even if you're non-Latino, I encourage parents. I have a whole group of parents that follow me on my social media that are non-native, and they know, we have so much education these days about the benefit and advantages. We have so much support, so many resources out there that there's no excuse.
Right.
We really, all of us, should be raising at least a bilingual, if not a multilingual child, and we should be super okay with that, and we should be super excited about it. And oftentimes it's our attitude as adults. So the attitude we have about this, being bilingual is the attitude that the children is going to emulate. So we need to be all excited about it, and we need to, want to bring it that, be part of our daily routine in our lives to preserve our language. Because let's face it, the children are going to get the English, yes or yes.
Of course.
It's going to
yes.
happen. It's their social way of communicating.
Of
It's
course.
going to go happen in school. It's going to happen in the park. It's going to happen at the store. It's going to happen everywhere they go. What we need to preserve is the Spanish, because the Spanish is the one that will go sideways if we don't continue with it at home.
Exactly. No, that's
So,
true. Absolutely
That
true.
is absolutely true. All right. This question here. What is next for you? What are your upcoming projects? Can you clue us in a little bit?
well, like I mentioned, I signed with my wonderful agent about a month and a half ago, and I'm already on submission with two stories. So we're now at the keeping our fingers crossed stage. So I'll let you know. But I'm hoping that maybe by the end of this year we have some good news, and that I can continue to be published out there, and get my books out in the world. I'm writing, even though I mentioned to you earlier that I have like 13 manuscripts. I am still, doing writing ideas down, and I have two projects that I've been waiting for this book launch to be done with a little bit. And I think my dream, and hopefully it'll happen, would be to go to Puerto Rico, maybe next March, and lock myself up for about a month or so and write like two or three stories that I have. I have notes here and there, but I think I'm excited to write them. And I think as a writers, we have everything else has to stop so you have time to write. So,
Yes.
That's why you need to give yourself a writer's retreat to
yes,
Puerto Rico.
exactly. I
And if you
know.
want company, you can invite Sylvia and me too.
Hey, you
That's
guys can
right. If you,
come. We can all
I was
share.
just I
We
was
can
just gonna
all.
say, get an Airbnb,
Oh,
you'll have us.
absolutely.
We'll
I think
only
that
see
would be
each other
good.
at meals, that's all.
Oh my
But
God.
yes,
Wouldn't that
absolutely.
be fun? That would be
Right.
super
Wouldn't
fun.
that
You
be
just
fun?
started something. So let's
I'm
talk.
telling you.
Let's talk
And
about it.
Puerto
Yeah,
Rico,
let's.
which is Puerto Rico's on my bucket list. I tell
Oh,
people
no, no,
I
no.
live so
Oh,
close and I have not been.
oh, you have to
I love
be.
Puerto
Ah,
Rico. I've been there and I can go any day. I love
Oh
it.
no. Well,
oh,
and it has to be an Airbnb out, where the beach, we can see the ocean out there. We can take
there we
walks
go.
after.
Let me go pack. Let
I
me go
know,
pack.
really.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Yes.
Okay.
But that's an
Claudia, you
important. I'll close it with the
go
last
ahead.
question.
Okay.
Just as a comment to our audience, if there are any writers or writers to be, it is important to carve that time out. You don't have to go to a special destination. If you can just go to your backyard, to your little corner in the house, to
Yes.
your city park, wherever makes sense for you. But carve that time out, because if you don't, the calendar will fill out with other things. And so for me as a writer and illustrator, I have to carve that time out to do both, a little bit each. Otherwise, the calendar gets filled out with other things. But I'll wrap it up. Our very last question with you, Maritere, is if you have any last words or words of wisdom that you would like to leave for writers wanting to publish bilingual books, and for teachers, librarians, and or parents raising or wanting to raise bilingual children. So it's kind of like two questions.
Well, let's take the first one first. My advice is, if you really love to write, I would suggest that you go to your local library and take out all the bilingual books. I'd be surprised if there's a lot of them. So, and if they're not, take your little list and request them, request the books in the library. Um, and just look through them and learn how they're written and what are the stories, and those that will spark kind of your imagination and your ideas, and was like, oh, they wrote this book, so maybe I can write about this, or whatever. Like I say, we always learn from each other. So sitting down with those books, that and maybe you already have bilingual books in your list that you love. So go and make sure that you read over them and learn how, what was the story, and where did the tension come, and what agency did the child or the character have, etc. And that's how you really learn how to kind of structure your story, if you will. Um, and then what was the second part of your question? Something about teachers.
Yeah, so basically your words of wisdom for teachers, librarians, and or parents who are raising or wanting to raise bilingual children.
Yeah, so that is an intention that you have to, from day one, that you want to do. And it's something that you have to discuss with your partner. And it's very helpful when your partner is in the same page, for lack of a
Yeah.
better word, or
The
maybe a
fun.
good word, the same page that you are, because you need that support. And then I always suggest that parents develop a plan, like I call it a family language plan. And in there, you're going to go study all the different methods and strategies that are out there, like one parent, one language, minority language at home, time and place, and you decide which one is better for your family. And this is why a plan is different from, Claudia, your home, and my home, and Silvia's home, because we all have different family circumstances and different families dynamics, etc. And that all plays a role. So once you decide what strategy, then you put, what method, Then you put the strategies in there, and that includes your daily activities. Everything revolves around the Spanish language, the reading, the conversations, the music you listen to, the, times that you're in the kitchen, the play dates that you go with with kids in the park. Everything is included in there. And then you also include the resources that are there. Then you go and you uh, do research in some of the resources. And of course, if you are not sure about something, I'm always available. If you wanted to, your audience wants to send me a DM about resources that I've been doing this for over 2.5 decades. So, and before, I'm very careful because I feel like parents trust me now because I've been doing this for so long. So when there's a resource out there that pops up, I go and I study it and I research it and I talk to the people that started it and why are you doing this and let me see and send it to me. And so what I'm recommending to you is something that I've already studied and I'm comfortable that is a good resource for you. And same with the teachers and the librarians. I think that, there's many Latinx authors out there that are coming up with beautiful books, and they belong in all the libraries all over the United States and all the indie bookstores. That's why, if every time I post about a book, I'm always reminding parents, request it in your library and your local bookstore, because I've gone to my local bookstore, which I adore because it's the cutest thing, but they need more Latinx books out there. So I have my little list that I'm preparing, and because I'm doing my event there next week, after that I'm gonna request all kinds of books that they can have like a section, because we do have dual language schools popping up more and more in this
Yes.
area. So parents and teachers and librarians are going to need these books. So anyway, that's my soapbox on the subject.
No,
I
very
think,
wise words. Thank you so much for sharing. And this brings us to the end of our lovely time with you. Thank you so much, Maritere. But before we let you go, we do have what we call rapid fire questions, which are questions we ask of every guest, and you just answer whatever comes to mind. It's meant to be spontaneous and fast, 90 seconds at most. So the first question is, what is one fact about you that even your biggest fans might not know?
so when I was 27 years old, I had just gotten married, and a few months after that, I was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In my thyroid, so I have no
Oh,
thyroid. I
okay.
had surgery right away, and I don't talk about it much. At first, because when you're young and you don't feel the confident and you kind of like don't want people to feel sorry for you or what have you. But I think lately I've talked about it a little bit more, but it's not something that I go out there and say. But lately I think that there's so many women, Latina women that have gone
Yes.
through diagnosis of breast cancers here and there. I just feel like I want them to know that I'm there with them, that I know how scary it can be, and that I think this whole, if I look back now until then to today, I think that helped me become resilient and want to like love life and love every
Yes.
moment and be appreciative and grateful of everything that has happened in my life since then. And here I am, 68 years old, and I have a new career writing children's books. Like, who knew?
Yay!
So anyway,
That's fabulous. Thank you for sharing that. It
Oh,
does.
that's fabulous.
Yeah,
Fabulous.
you're a survivor, and there's a lot of respect to be had for that. So Sylvia, you
And
got
I
it.
have the second rapid fire question. If others were to describe you in one, two, or three words, what would those be?
loyal, determined, and passionate.
Oh.
The
We've
food.
seen that. We've seen
Yes,
that. It's
it's
very
very obvious.
evident.
That's
It's very
wonderful.
evident. Okay, one more question, Claudia.
This is the last one, so then we end. So, what book or books have had the most impact in your life?
I think that when I was growing up, the one book that was around and available was that Little Prince.
Oh, I love that.
So I love that book, and he goes around the world, and so it's all I kind of all ties into the multiculturalism of it all. Um, and in the last wait was about 2 years ago. I mean, I've read many books. I love Isabel Allende's books, and they've had an impact in my life. I wanted to write like her and all that. But I've met a lot of younger Latinx authors in the last few years. And I've gotten to really appreciate the YA books and the middle grade books written by my Latinx friends. And I read the Furia book 2 years ago, and that book still haunts me today. I adored that book. I thought it was brilliant. I love Jamile. She's been in my podcast. I admire her so much. She writes different genres and all. But that book about a young soccer girl in Argentina, and what happens because she wants to play just like the boys and all that. I just loved it, and it really I remember telling her recently, oh, maybe when we interview her for the podcast, it's like, are you doing a second book? Because I'm waiting to see what happened between those two.
It needs to add a second one, huh?
Oh
Yes,
my God. I just love that book. So anyway, yeah.
that's fabulous. Well,
Thank you, Maritere.
thank you so much. And this brings us to the end of this lovely conversation with you. So thank you again for everything you've shared with us. And
And
thank you to our audience.
congratulations
Oh, yes,
on all
congratulations.
your gains, all of your wonderful lately, the wonderful developments. I mean, they've been coming. They've been coming because you've been already doing marvelous things for years. But this new development with the agent and everything that you're so excited about, I don't blame you. It's wonderful. So congratulations on all these new things, Maritere.
Thank you so much. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and talk to you guys and your audience. It's been a pleasure.
Bye-bye. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. In the next episode, Nicolás Solís,